Good morning. Good morning. This is Doing Relationships Right. I'm Jennifer Hurvitz. And of course, I brought you a fantastic guest today. I feel like I have like the best guests ever. And I'm just so happy that Beth Gulotta is here with us today. She's a licensed mental health counselor. Am I right, Beth?
Yes.
And host of, I love this, Quiet the Clock podcast, where she explores life's challenges from dating, relationships, egg freezing, hooray, to mental health, all while breaking away from societal expectations and self-imposed pressures. Her podcast guides you in navigating this transformative time with confidence and clarity. And Beth, you've got all these great things going on. How are you?
I'm doing so well. Thank you so much for having me here. We were saying before, I love being to be the guest. So I'm excited.
I know
it's so
like,
fun.
I just get to chill out and hang out here and oh yeah, I love it. I love it.
And thank you for that fabulous introduction. I appreciate it.
I'm going to read more later, but I mean, you tell us everything that's going on. I feel like you have like so many different, first of all, if you don't follow Beth, you have to go follow Beth. Your YouTube, everything. I'm like stalking you. I'm fangirling a little. You're amazing. Tell me how this started, how you what happened?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's so much to share. Well, I guess like I can start with like the birth of the podcast. So as you mentioned, I'm a licensed mental health counselor, which was a career change for me. I started out in finance. Right. I have like 3 different masters and so many different things because I just wanted to figure out what I really loved. I mean, graduating college, I moved to Europe for a year. Good. And I was so thankful for that experience. But I came back and I kind of fell into the traditional path of what you're supposed to do and what you should do. And I started working in finance because I really wasn't encouraged to figure it out, what I really love to do before that. Same. So ended up in finance after 2.5 years. Well before 2.5 years, I realized it wasn't for me. I didn't love it. And it sort of just started me on this path to figure out what that was. And that was like a lot of trying and failing. That was a lot of, different jobs, different master's degrees. Fast forward, I landed in my first mental health counseling class. And I'm like, I love this. This is it. From there, I finished grad school, did all my clinical training at an outpatient program, worked in a couple different private practices under other clinicians, and then started my own private practice. I would probably say all of that led me to like 34 or 35 when I started my
baby. Yeah.
Well,
but I think that's good. But you know what? When you say 34 or 35, like I think in my head, and my boys are 20 and 22. Mm-hmm. And I want them to wait till they're 30 and 35 to know what they want and to know themselves. Because I was like, no, just like you said, I was like, let's do this. Everybody's doing this. Everyone's getting married. And I didn't have that opportunity until I got divorced.
Yeah. No, I know. And I think that's like, I love what you're saying and what you're encouraging your boys to do is because I wasn't encouraged to me when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of like, this is the path. This is the one path. This is the way that it looks. And it wasn't until I was kind of out there on my own. I'm like, well, why is this the path? Because for me, this kind of sucks. And so I think I want to encourage people that like, it takes the time it takes to figure out what it is. And it could be 22, 23, it could be 34, it could be 35, it could be 50. Like it takes the time it takes. And I think all the things that get us there are so valuable. Like I had so much trial and error. I had so much failure, but like, I don't even look at it as failure because it's like, it led me to the right path.
Were your parents supportive, Beth? Like, were they, when you first got it, like, were they like another master's degree? Because I feel like I want my kids to get as much as they can.
Yeah. I think they couldn't figure me out because I just like, I don't know. I the thing is too, it's like, and this is different for everybody, but I just like stopped asking my parents for permission for things. For now I'm an adult, I'm not under their roof. I'm not financially supported by them. And so I was I felt at liberty to kind of explore my life and what I wanted to do. Not that they were unsupportive. I just don't think they got it. Like they were from they're from a generation of like, you get one job, you stay at that job until retirement. And that's kind of what it was. And it's not that way anymore, which is beautiful. There's so much opportunity to just like change careers at any point in your life or do something different. So it wasn't that they were not supportive. I just don't think they got it. And they're very proud of me now. But yeah, they were a few kind of like, all right, what is she doing now?
I love that though. See, that's like, I think that my kids should do that. I want them to be able to jump and do and go and explore.
Well,
I
that's
didn't
the
have that
beauty of
opportunity.
yeah, and that's the beauty of what we've done. It sounds like what you've done as well is like you've carved that path yourself without being encouraged to do that, and now you know the beauty of that, so you're passing that on, of course, to your children.
Okay, so your podcast started when in all of this?
Okay, yes. So my podcast, it was sort of in parallel. Well, the idea came to me like in parallel of me like living my own personal life. I have my professional life. And so just to share with your audience, I met my partner at 34, which like according to societal standards is late in the game. I froze my eggs at 37, also late in the game.
I love it. Love it.
Um, and so when I was going through egg freezing, like nobody was talking about it. I knew
Nobody.
one other, nobody, like nobody. I'm so excited to see sort of where things are now for women, for younger women, just the platforms, the conversations, the resources, the clinics. It's amazing. But all of that was not available to me when I froze at 37. I knew one other person. So it was really lonely, it was like, overwhelming. It was lonely. So many narratives came up because at 37, all my friends had kids, had
Yeah,
multiple kids.
absolutely
And,
right.
and I'm like, I don't even know if I'm going to be mom. So as I'm freezing my eggs, as I'm having my own angst about societal timelines and pressures, I'm hearing so many of my clients, my female clients, going through the same thing. And it was just like messaging and narrative that just kept hitting me from every direction, my own personal life, my professional life, and my work. And I'm like, wait a second, we're all kind of feeling this. We're all going through this. And why is nobody talking about it? So I just continue to have like, I never knew it was going to be a podcast. I never knew it would turn into what it is. But I was just like, I want to create more conversation around this. And so I started talking to other women kind of in the same space of feeling the pressure of societal timelines, biological clock. And someone's like, you should just do a podcast. And so
So much
I like just did a podcast. So
awesome.
here,
And
here
look
I
where you
am.
are. Here you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
And so you found your partner at 37.
34.
34, I'm
Found
sorry. And then
34, froze at 37.
so are you with this? Do you mind if I ask you're with the same?
Yeah, no,
The
ask
same.
everything. Same partner. Yep.
Okay,
So
super.
we'll be together 9 years in October. I mean, the other thing I think to share about the relationship piece, and we can dive into that too,
Yeah.
is we're not married. We're in a very committed long-term relationship. We have a child together. We're hoping to have another child together. And another one of those societal frameworks and constructs that
Yep.
everyone just assumes you're married. I mean, the amount of times that people say your husband, and I'm like, not my husband.
Yeah. I get it
Um,
every day.
yeah, I
Because
all
I'm
the
not,
time.
we've been together 8 years, and everyone's like, oh, when you get, I'm like, I don't need, I'm good. I did
Yeah,
it once. I'm okay. I've got my, whatever. Yeah, I totally get it. But the pressure comes from everywhere.
everywhere, everywhere,
See,
internally
yes,
too. I mean,
Great.
internally too, but it doesn't help when it's internal and everywhere externally.
Yeah. Yeah. So crazy to think about because when I met my husband, he's my ex-husband, I thought he was like,
What's been?
husband, get it? I thought he was like the perfect sperm.
Mm-hmm,
So back then I'm 52. So like back in my 20s, I thought, oh, I have to meet that person that's going to be the perfect sperm.
mm-hmm,
And I
mm-hmm,
really wish that I would have, and I always thought to myself, I was joking around, but I don't think I really was. I'd say, I just want your sperm. Really, I just want your
mm-hmm,
sperm.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I think I really meant that. I just didn't have the balls to say it. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it would have slowed everything down. I wouldn't have felt any pressure to have kids or get
Yeah.
married or
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like I wouldn't have been divorced. I feel like
Oh,
starter marriage,
yeah.
like that starter marriage between like
Mm-hmm.
21 and 26, people are
Yeah.
getting married and they're getting divorced in their 30s and 40s. And I'm like,
Yeah,
do you feel,
I
how
think
do you feel?
oh yeah. I mean, I think you said something really important. It's like we're not kind of looking at it from the right way, right? If you were really honest with yourself and you're like, oh, I'm looking for, someone to father my children, we're not really probably looking at the right things for long-term
And I
partnership.
wasn't,
But that's totally understandable because all these like long-standing narratives and constructs are so ingrained in us that it's like, if it's college, job, engagement, it's like linear in that way. And
right.
there's no, at least for us, like we're saying,
Mhm.
there is nowhere along the way that's encouraging us to think about like, here's what you need in a long-term partner. Here's what you need for a successful relationship. I want you to say marriage because like
Right.
we're saying you don't have to be married, but no one is kind of had said those things to us. So we hadn't really thought about it
Right.
probably until we're later. And, I talk a lot about the value of meeting my partner at 34. And if I'm really honest, like was sad that I hadn't met somebody yet. I watched everybody around me get engaged, get married, buy homes, like have all of these like life milestones and progressions. I had great time being single, but I always also had lonely moments. But
Same. Yeah.
when I met him at 34, I'm like, I was so much more clear on like what I wanted, what did I need in a relationship. And I was also clear on those things because I've been through relationships that didn't work out. So I see so much value in anything kind of later in life because you just have so much more knowledge, you have so much more wisdom, you have more experience that's helped shape, guide you, like understand yourself a bit more to make more aligned decisions for life, period.
I think time is such a gift. Like
Such
if
a
you're able
gift.
to get like, holding your kid back at school, people are like, oh my God, I can't. But that extra year, sometimes that's what they need, So I just feel like everything you're saying is just so spot on. I agree with everything. When I saw it, I started, Googling you and doing my research and stuff. I'm like, oh my God, this girl's singing my tune. I mean, it's just great because I really feel like the first thing my kids are like, I look at them and I think to myself, well, will I ever be a grandma? But you know what? It doesn't matter because I don't want them to rush. I want them to,
Yeah.
and if they don't want to have kids, they don't want to have kids. It's just like so much pressure for these kids.
So much pressure. Yeah. And I love how you said time is a gift because I think often that's, the podcast is called Quiet the Clock because we always feel up against the time and we look at time as something really negative. And I struggle with too. Like it's not easy, but we can look at time as the gift. If we can work on being patient, if we could work on trusting that things will unfold in the time that they're supposed to, I think we can just breathe a little bit and enjoy life a little bit more. But we all get so stuck on time and timeline.
Yeah. And when did you know you were going to freeze your eggs? Like, and how was your partner? And do you mind if I ask?
No, don't. You can ask me anything. It's probably all out there on the podcast already.
I know, right?
I never knew I would freeze my eggs, and that's the one thing. It's interesting as I've interviewed so many people about this. No one has said like everyone, actually, I should say everyone has said, I wish I had done it sooner. So for me, it was a decision I sat with for a really long time. I went back and forth on whether or not I would do it. I was kind of waiting to see if my partner and I would get aligned on starting a family. And by 37, when we weren't, I felt the clock and I was like, I got to at least go check this out. I got to at least go have a consultation and see what this is about. And the age thing obviously factors in, which I've learned so much more about that I can share here if you want. But
please,
leaving that consultation at 37, I was devastated because they show you the numbers, they show you the charts, and they're like, basically like you have no chances. And I left there thinking, well, why the fuck would I do this? Like, it's so expensive. I don't even have the money for this. Like, I had to put on a credit card. And ultimately, it was like, I am someone that does not want to live with any regrets. So I didn't want to look back and say, shit, I should have done this. And so that was ultimately the deciding factor of me doing it. My partner was supportive of me freezing my eggs, but a suggestion that was made to us was to do embryos, and he was not on board for that. Okay. And the reason for that suggestion, for anyone listening that's not sure, is that embryos have more of a success rate of thawing and being live birth, and you can viable, and you can genetically test those. But I've had an amazing doctor in here that says, when in doubt, always do eggs. And I'm sure people have seen in the news sort of these crazy stories where people break up and then they're fighting over the embryos. So that one's a personal decision. I would have done embryos, but he wasn't ready to make that decision. So I froze at 37. I was happy with the results.
And did the minute when you froze them and you got did you hold like just a weight lift off your shoulder, like you're just like you could breathe?
Total weight. It was like
coolest thing.
Yeah, because there was, again, like so much pressure, and it like seeps into every area of your life. If this is something that's like a desire of yours and you want to be a mother, and then of course the pressure of time and all these narratives out there about like, the fertility cliff is 35 and I'm 37. So it was all really weighing on me. And there's a few things that happened after I did my exit. One, I was so proud of myself. Like I was so proud of, thank you. I know. I mean, I'm so proud of every woman that does this or goes through fertility. Yeah. But I was insanely impressed with myself of how I'm not a needles person. I hate needles. And so I was just, proud of myself for navigating that whole journey, like just physically, logistically, like you have to be at these appointments like every other morning. So you're shuffling your life around. You never know when the retrieval is. So you have to kind of navigate all that. Life does not stop when you're freezing your eggs. So you still have to like show up and do all the things you need to do. So I felt really, really proud of myself. And I felt, I felt this huge weight off. I felt like, you know, I could breathe. We could breathe as a really, and, as a partnership because there was so much pressure on our, such a gift because it did. That bought us a couple of years of breathing.
Yeah, right.
Until I was back at him, like, what are we doing here?
But it's funny because I totally I totally get what you're saying because I so want like all of my female clients that are on. I'm like, you should all be freezing. And I think that now I did some research. There are some jobs that actually pay for it.
Yes. So that's just another, amazing progression in this space is like a lot of companies are covering it. I've heard stories where women have advocated with human resources to get it added to insurance packages. So if your company is not covering it, go in and talk to someone and say, can we add this next year, and advocate for it. So I think we're seeing a really great move in the right direction of just the financial piece.
Right. And also health. I mean, it gives you more years, literally. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like your body can wait, and the pressure's off, and you're emotionally ready. And I think that it's also like, the whole thing's amazing. So my brother, if I can share really quickly, my little brother, they did embryos because they used my brother's sperm and his husband's wife's eggs. I mean, I'm sorry, husband's sister's eggs.
Oh, I was like, okay, wait.
Like, no, not wife. Husband's sister's eggs. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So the baby is that's really genetically, and they did embryos.
Beautiful.
Yep.
See, I love stories like that because I think what happens with like having these constructs and frameworks that are so outdated is like it's supposed to look one way. And I love stories like that where it's like you can look any kind of way. I've never heard a version like that, and that's so amazing. But I had a really amazing guest on, was like, once you let go of the vision of how you thought it should be, like this new vision, there's room for this new vision to emerge, and it's just as beautiful, if not more.
I love that. Yeah, because it really, I mean, I remember like, okay, I got my MRS degree, in social work, and then and I have to get married, I have to find the guy, and in my head, I kept saying, have to. I should be this, I should be pregnant, I should be with it. Like, looking back, I'm like, the pressure that I put on myself, and I was so angry and resentful because I felt like I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
But like, I felt like I had no choice.
I love that. Like you said that earlier too, about like the readiness. I think that's so important to consider because two things. One, it's like, should is like the worst word ever. And if any of my therapy clients are listening, or any previous clients, they know that's like a word that is like banned from our sessions, because should is usually never aligned with what we actually want. Should or have to is never usually aligned with what we want. And the other thing is, so it's like, who really wants this? Do I really want this? Are we really stopping to think about that? Probably not, because it's been so ingrained in us. This is the way that it looks. And I think readiness is so huge. I think assessing our readiness for these big lifestyle, like life milestones, like, are you ready to be in a committed relationship? I think we're so focused on outcome and focused on, I have to have this thing, I should have this thing, everybody else around me has this thing. Then we're not even thinking like, well, am I ready to have this thing? Because it's work to be in a committed relationship. Like, am I ready to give up independence and singlehood and ability to come and go? Like, so I think that's something that people should really be asking themselves, is like, am I ready for all this? And for sure, parenthood, and having my son at 40, I was like, I wouldn't have been ready a second sooner, because I did so much in my 30s. I was building a business.
I'm so jealous.
I'm
so jealous. I really, seriously,
you
like,
can do it all now.
I know, right? I'm like, I think about it. I'm like, what if I would have waited? Like, of course, like, I mean, it all happens the way it's supposed to, but I mean, I just am so jealous. Like, you got to do everything that you wanted to do.
I know, but you know what? While I was in it and doing all the things I wanted to do, it was like, there was this cloud over it, being like, pressure of the time. You don't have these things yet. Are you going to have these things? So while I did enjoy all the travel and different jobs and friendships and building my business and all those things, it was colored also by like the pressure So
Right.
I didn't get to, I wish I lived that differently. And that's part of the intention of the podcast is to like
Absolutely. Right.
safeguard anyone from like feeling all that, like live your life, love your life, be grateful for where you're at, and trust that everything is going to come to you in the right timing.
Right. And I think that you're also so much more prepared when you set yourself up for success. Right.
Yeah.
So like, you know that your eggs are there. You know, you don't have to rush. You're not on a time clock. You can do, you know what? If he's not the right guy, he's not the right guy. Bye. You know, like there's no pressure. Like, oh, God, I really have to stay with him because I need to have a kid by the time. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
I hear it so often where girls are like, well, I wasn't really sure, but you know what? He's going to make a great dad. That was me. I'm like, oh, he'll be the best dad. Anyway, he is. My husband is the best dad. But he was a shitty husband and I was a shitty wife. So it's like we
Yeah.
weren't ready. We weren't ready to get married.
Yeah. You
you
weren't
know?
ready.
But
Well,
just think
I've
that,
heard so many women, who've shared their egg freezing stories here say that it changed the way, it allowed them to change the way that they dated. So they weren't just out there
yes,
looking
yes,
for a husband and a father. They were like looking for a partner. So
yeah,
doing the egg freezing took that pressure off and changed their dating experience
it does. It
completely.
100% change your date. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I said, my client's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, no, you will date differently. You're going to date for you. Just looking at who you want and what your
Yeah.
needs are instead of putting everybody else first, which is what
Yeah.
so many women do.
I know. I look at my sister now. She's got her two kids. Her boys are older. My son's 3. Her sons are 10. And I know he's so cute. I know he's God. He's such a little ham and so cute. And she's divorced as well and single. I'm like, God, but like you could just go out. You don't have to worry about like the kids thing is done. Like you don't have to worry about that. It's like I feel like it's such a freeing place to date from. And not, I know it's hard to date after divorce and that has its own complexities and
Tell her to call me.
nuances, but I think, just based on my own experience, when you take the pressure off whether or not you're going to have children and the timeline of that, you can date completely differently.
Although it's really interesting now, some of my clients and people that I know are dating after divorce and they have their kids and their kids are grown up and then they're meeting guys who are like they're in a different space, even though they're the same age. So like maybe they waited to get married till they were 40 and they didn't have kids. So now I have girlfriends who are like, well, he really wants to have a kid. I'm like, what are you nuts? Like, I mean, he's 50, you're 40, 50, whatever. And I'm like, I could not imagine doing that again.
Yeah.
But that's the same thing. It's like, he wants, he wants kids and it's like, it's very interesting, the dynamics that you come across. I never thought I'd be like in that space thinking about that stuff. Oh. Like I dated a guy who broke up with me because I wouldn't have kids.
Really?
Yeah. And I was 42. I was 42 and I had grown up kids. They were in high. I'm like, look, here's your kids. They're great. He's like, no, I want my own. I'm like, did you think you wanted to mention that when I met you on Match?
Sure.
Right?
Exactly.
Never said a word. It's so interesting. It's just crazy. So you have the podcast and then you're also therapist on top of it all.
Yes. Yeah.
How did you have and a baby?
Oh, I don't know. I have an amazing staff around me that supports me tremendously. I have a group practice in Midtown Manhattan.
It's amazing.
With a bunch of therapists that work in the practice who are incredible. I have the podcast. I have a toddler.
I can't even believe I look at my kids and I'm like, it's the
oh my God, this age
best.
is fun. I know it's fun. He's funny.
Aren't they funny?
He's so funny. And what's funny about him is he knows he's funny or he thinks he's funny. And the second he gets a laugh from Rob or I, he's like repeating whatever we just said. He loves to make us laugh. The balancing act is real. This past November, I took a big step back clinically and stopped working with a lot of my clients for a few reasons. One, the podcast was taking up a lot of time. I was also, and still am, on this journey to have a second child, and that takes up a lot of space mentally and emotionally. So sort of knowing my limits has helped me manage all of it. I kind of was someone that would put so much on my plate, and I'm still learning to like set boundaries and say no and not take too much on. So that's still work in progress. But like I said earlier, I have an amazing team in place and they've been so incredible of like keeping things afloat if I can't manage or if I've had miscarriages in the last year. So they've kind of really stepped up for me. Thank you.
Yeah, it's so hard, isn't it? The whole thing.
It's hard. And I think as women too, it's like we take on so much. We do so much. I mean, okay, this might sound silly, but you probably relate. Like managing a household is a full-time job. Figuring out all the kids stuff, doctor's appointments, school, like clothes, it's all like multiple full-time jobs.
Yeah.
So I think we as women wear, and we're great at it. We can multitask. We wear so many hats, but I think it's always important that we're mindful of like where we're reaching burnout.
I think so too. I also think that maturity, like you're so much more mature,
Yeah.
speaking of like, than I was at your age. Does that make sense? Like
Really?
well,
Thank you.
well, you want to know why? Because it's like, I'd screwed up my marriage. We had, whatever. And I had to start all over at 40, where you're just starting, which is like your
Yeah.
brain is just so ready. I feel like you're just so good at everything you're doing because it's just such a gift of time and you're mature and you're grown up and you know, you're just ready to make big decisions. I feel like
Thank
much
you.
better than I was in my 20s. Like, you know what I mean? Like I just
Yeah,
wasn't
but
perfect.
I think it's so amazing, courageous, and brave to start over at any age. Like that is not
It's the
easy
worst.
to do. It's yeah, no,
I
it's
didn't have a
not
choice. Yeah.
it's not easy to do. And a lot of people don't do it because they're
No.
afraid. A lot of people will stay in situations, relationships, career, whatever, because, change is scary and starting over is scary. So I think there's a lot to be said for starting over at any age.
I have a question. When you talk to the people that you're interviewing, when you interview, whatever, do they feel like they also don't have to rush so quickly to have kids back to back? Like you have more time? Do you see what I'm trying to say? Do you see longer spaces between kids when you freeze your eggs than typically?
That's a really great question. Okay, one thing I'll say I want to mention too, like so when I froze my eggs at 37, I only did one round.
Okay.
A question I've heard being asked, which I think is amazing by clinics and these places where people are freezing, is how many kids do you want to have? Because
Interesting.
knowing all I know now, I would have done probably more rounds, at least one more round.
Okay.
I have to be honest, I don't know how that's affecting like age gap between siblings. I can say personally for me, just so there's clarity, like I got pregnant naturally at 39, so I didn't even use those eggs. Yeah,
You did it.
yeah. Well, so and now,
You
which
have them.
which is so fortunate, is because we're using them now to try to have our second. But if I needed to use them for my first, there might not have been anything left for the
That's,
second.
that's a great point. I never thought about that.
I hadn't either, and no one told me to think about that. But I've had guests on that say, in consultations, they're asking you how many kids you want to have. So I think that's in something really important to mention and for women to consider as they're thinking about egg freezing, how like relates to, gap between kids. I'm not really sure for people.
Interesting.
For me, I will say, um, I would have liked to have kids sooner together, closer together. My son is 3, and I don't know when I'll be pregnant again. And so, if it happens soon, that will be put them 4 years apart. For Rob and I, it took us a bit of time to get aligned on having a second. So that kind of like
Well,
ate
that's
up
what I was
some
going to
time.
say too, because it also gives you time to think about having the second, right? Because you
Hmm.
know that you're not, just the whole thing is amazing.
Yeah.
Because, like,
So, but
some of us feel
yeah.
pressure.
And to your point, like, I didn't feel pressure that it was I mean, I felt a lot of things that it was taking us time to get aligned, but it wasn't like, oh my God, if we don't decide soon, we're like
Right.
screwed. I didn't feel that.
Exactly.
I didn't feel that way because we had the eggs on ice. And I still feel like we have time because we have embryos left.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm still in that space where like this decision allows so much pressure to be off.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. My brother was the same way. He's like, they had their son, they had Sebastian, and then they were thinking they didn't know. They weren't sure if they were going to have another one. And so 6 years later, now they have Jesse. So it's like, it's just so, yeah, so
Interesting.
cool. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had the embryos frozen and they did a certain amount with one surrogate and then the other. I mean, it's just the most incredible thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like this is a decision that does give you so many options and does
Yeah.
give you more time and does take pressure off. So, I mean, same as it sounds like you do, like encourage a lot of people to, at the very least, like look into it and at the
Yeah.
very least understand your health and your fertility health. Like, I can't tell you how many, and myself included, guests I've interviewed that like we knew nothing about our fertility health, our cycles,
I don't know.
FSH. Yeah, nothing. I'm
Now I do because I'm
still,
going through menopause, for God's sakes. But I mean,
that's another topic
yeah,
that's not talked about enough.
yeah,
I think
no,
there's just this lack of understanding, information, education around our health.
yeah. I just think it's a no-brainer for me. even on you said you used a credit card. That's like I would do the same thing.
Yeah.
I would
I
absolutely
mean,
do
I
the same
had
thing.
to. I had no choice. And it was
No, it's
for me,
expensive.
it's so expensive.
Oh,
And I literally didn't have the money. I mean, and
no.
now, thankfully, there's so many other options and ways.
Yeah.
And like we were saying earlier, companies are paying for it. But my two options were a medical loan or a credit card. And they're like, take a credit card out. You'll get the points. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's really what I'm thinking about right now. But that's what I had to do, was like a no
Yep.
interest credit card that I paid off for a really long time. But again, I wanted to like live with no regrets.
I have one more question before I let you go, because I can't keep you forever. But do you think that parents are supportive of this? Because I feel like a lot of times women, they may want to like look into it. They want to talk about it. But like the parents are like, oh, no. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just feel like parents should support their kids through this journey.
I think parents should support their kids through
Yes. Everything, damn it. Oh my gosh,
I love the question, because what I'll share with you is, and listen, I have a very different relationship with my mother than other people do, but like I didn't even tell. I mean, I was 37 years old. Like, so I didn't even tell. I didn't even tell my parents I was freezing my eggs. So,
Yeah.
I guess it depends what type of relationship you have with your parents. And listen, there's also sort of a lot of cultural consideration that goes into this, like religious consideration. So, based on that, families might not be supportive. And if they're not, it's really unfortunate. But if you really feel like this is the best decision for you, I think you can find other people that will support you in it.
I'll support you.
I'll support you. There's so many communities out there. I mean, I know that there are a lot of parents that were really supportive, and a lot of people's moms were the ones that like did the shots or helped pick them up. So there's a range of things, but I think that's the point of everything I try to talk about is, you have to drown out the external noise, and it can be really hard when it is family and you respect their opinions and you have close relationships with them, but ultimately we should decide what's best for our lives, and we should be the loudest voice making those decisions and those considerations. And I think what becomes really problematic and creates a lot of stress and pressure and shame and all these bad feelings is when we start to let other voices, society, parents, who have friends, whoever, be louder than our own voice. So
great advice. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Look at that. I got some free, really good advice today from an awesome psychologist, said both.
Psychotherapist. No,
psychotherapist.
Yeah. I don't do meds. I mean,
oh, shoot.
I don't prescribe meds.
Okay, perfect. That's so funny.
But yeah, I mean, if you can't find, and this applies to anything, like if you're not finding support you need in places you would like to get it from, there's other
change places.
Yeah, change places, change people.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can't recommend enough to at least go understand your options.
Or listen to your podcast. Everybody needs to listen to your podcast.
Thank you.
Quiet the Clock with Beth. Now, tell me where we can find you. I'm going to put everything in the show notes. You know the drill, but just to make sure people can.
Yeah, you can follow us on Instagram at Quiet the Clock Pod, Quiet the Clock Pod on TikTok. Subscribe on YouTube. We're trying to like pump our YouTube up.
Yours is big. You have so many people. I've been like, why are people? No one. I have like 500 subscribers. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? I don't know. What did you do? I don't know how to do it. I mean,
I don't know. We had one video go pretty viral, so I think that helped us a lot. So yeah, you can find us on YouTube, and the website is quiettheclock.com. We have some really exciting stuff coming up, so stay tuned for all of that. Yeah, we're gonna do an event in the city. I don't have the date yet. We have a really fun like series we do, new therapists, seasoned therapists, and so we're gonna have some seasoned therapists helping out the new therapist. We have some courses coming out. Nothing's finalized, but everything will be up on the website when it's ready to go. So stay tuned there.
And I'll put everything in the show notes. And so my son's girlfriend lives in Manhattan, and she wants to do what you do, and my son wants to do what we do. They're both anytime I find someone that I think is awesome, I'm like, if my kid reaches out to you, do you mind?
Yeah. Oh my God. I was just going to say, so one of the other things I had in mind was creating a course for people considering being therapists, but they can both absolutely reach out to me. Anyone can reach out to me. I am so happy to like get on a call, be available, answer questions, support. So if anyone DMs me, I'm going to answer you.
Oh, I'm the same way. People are like, I can't believe you answered me. Thank you so much. I'm like, what do you mean? Of course, right?
So, oh my gosh, send them all my way. If you want to be a therapist, if you want to ask about egg freezing, timelines, whatever, please reach out.
Awesome. Beth, thank you so much. And my kids are at Syracuse.
Oh my God, my mom went to Syracuse.
Shut up. Every time I do a podcast, I'm like, my kids went to, and they're like, oh, my mom, my sister went to, really? Your mom went there?
My mom went to Syracuse. We looked at my sister and I have a twin sister, identical twin sister, and we looked into Syracuse. We got into Syracuse, but we decided to go elsewhere. But yeah, it's my mom's alma mater.
Oh my God, I love it. They love it. The program, Zach, my son, is in the, not social work. I always get it wrong. Family dynamics, like human ecology, but not really. It's like, he'll get his master's, but I'm just like cracking up because he's like, Mom, I have a minor in mindfulness.
Oh my God,
for
so
you, baby.
huge.
I know, right? I'm so proud of him. Yay.
Oh, that's great.
Your pleasure. You're just as nice to have you. Thanks for being here.
So wonderful to speak with you. Yes, thank you so much.
We'll keep in touch. And everybody, do me a favor, go follow Beth. Quiet the clock. Listen to the podcast. Subscribe on YouTube. Do your thing. And do something great for yourself today. Thanks for being here. And Beth, thanks for coming. Have a great day, y'all. Peace, love, and truth. Bye.